right, Van Halen, jump on the Virgin Radio Breakfast Show. When he says jump, his publishers say how high? All the way to number one again. Right, this book is unputdownable. I know because I haven't put it down. I've actually been reading it during the show. I didn't have any time in my life yesterday to read it, but I did. I was on the school pickup. I had it in the car. I was waiting for Mrs. E to finish the tea. I had it at the kitchen table. I had it in bed last night. I woke up early this morning. I have never, ever, ever got up earlier than I have to do a show like this to carry on reading a book that I don't have to do either. That's what I did this morning. That's how good this book is. It's so good. Who might have wrote it, Vassos?
You will find our next guest in your telly, on your podcasts, in the newsstand at Fulham, and all over your bookshelf. His first novel in a brand new series, We Solve Murders, is out today. So please welcome a man as talented as he is tall. He's the boss man. He's Richard Osman.
It's getting better. He's getting better all the time. Hi, Rich.
Hi, everybody. How lovely to be here.
When you leave Steven Spielberg in bed in the morning,
yes.
How is that? You know,
Steve?
Yeah.
Well, because, you know, it's we have a lovely, cosy arrangement, the two of us.
Is it Morecambe and Wise, the
yeah.
two men in a bed thing?
We top and tail, me and Stephen.
When was the last time you saw him?
On set, which was about 2 weeks ago.
Shut up!
He came in by helicopter. He left by helicopter, and then we Googled on Mail Online where he was headed, and he was headed to his yacht in the south of France with Bono and Bruce Springsteen.
Of course he was.
And I went home to the cats.
Yeah, only out of choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure. Rich, this book, man, this book. The best-selling author of the Thursday Murder Club. Yeah, whatever. Welcome, We Solve Murders, a brand new series, and I am so on board. It is ridiculous. Who is Amy? Who is she with? What are they doing?
So Amy is a bodyguard for billionaires. And she is looking after a woman called Rosie D'Antonio, who is the world's best-selling author, if you don't count Lee Child. And she's a real sort of Jackie Collins type. And she wasn't really supposed to be a main character in this book, but Amy was just chatting to her in an early scene. I was just writing away, and she just said a few things about Jack Nicholson and mojitos and stuff. And I just thought, okay, you've got to stick around. So she became the kind of third detective in this book. Amy gets in trouble. Someone is trying to frame her and trying to kill her, and she thinks, well, who do I trust in the world to come and help me? And there's only one man she can trust. So way back at home in the New Forest is a man called Steve Wheeler, who is her father-in-law. He's an ex-cop. He's a widower. His life is getting smaller, and he likes it. He likes to be in his village. He likes to do the pub quiz. He likes to hang out with his cat and his mates. He does not want to fly around the world, but he has to because Amy is in trouble. So he's on a private jet within sort of 24 hours, discovers they don't do Scotch eggs, is absolutely horrified about this. And then suddenly we've got these three of them, Amy, Steve and Rosie, trying to outrun a murderer, trying to catch a murderer, and a big sort of round-the-world murder mystery caper.
Who's Adam?
Adam is the husband of Amy and the son of Steve, and like very, very often with father-in-laws and daughters-in-laws, Adam has no emotional relationship with his father, so it all comes through his wife. You know, anything that goes wrong in Adam's life, Adam and Steve don't, you know, they're gentlemen of a certain class and a certain age, and they don't talk through their feelings, and so Amy slightly kind of acts as a conduit between the two of them, and he's out in the Far East doing some financial thing that no one could understand.
Who is Jeff?
Jeff is Amy's boss, who is a guy who made millions and millions in the city and then discovered that running a private bodyguard company was probably more lucrative even than owning a hedge fund, because no one really tries to kill anybody. And so he worked out that he could make pretty good money doing that. But he is mistaken in this book because there's all sorts of trouble for him as well.
How did he realise that? What was the episode that made him realise he should get into CP, close protection?
He was talking to a Saudi businessman and he said, how is your personal security? And the Saudi businessman shrugged and he said, how much do you pay for your private security? And the Saudi businessman mentioned a number that was so large, Jeff thought, well, if you're shrugging and you're paying that, imagine if I did it well. And so that's the time.
And he saw the guy who was supposed to be doing this for the Saudi businessman outside having a fag looking in the wrong direction.
That's right, which is based on a thing. We made a show called The Games years and years ago on Channel 4.
The Games.
And it was live. And there was a thing with Fathers for Justice were going to come and disrupt the thing, right? And so a team of ex-SAS soldiers came up to Sheffield to try and kind of infiltrate and, you know, make sure the show could go ahead. And the SAS guy goes to the head of security at the stadium we were at. He said, "How are your guys? Can I trust them? Are they good?" And the guy at the stadium goes, "Yeah, I've got the best guys in the business." And the SAS guy gets his phone and say, "Why have I got a photograph of one of them asleep?" And I always remembered it, and I always thought, that's interesting.
My trap, Mr. Bond.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, so you got all that going on. Then you got Susan, who is Jeff's super assistant. She's like Miss Money Penny plus.
Yeah.
Times 1,000.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's peopled with... Listen, the murder mystery itself is fairly simple, but for me, these books are all about characters. It's always about characters having fun with people and, and making people laugh and all that kind of stuff. So whenever I introduce a minor character, I think, well, I'll just have them in for this scene. And then I sort of fall in love with them because they'll say something that really entertains me. And then suddenly the book is full of these people. And then, you've got to do another book and you've got to bring them all back. And so Thursday Murder Club, which is coming back next year, by the fourth one, there's about 40 characters who I think, I really like you, you've got to come back. And now I'm giving myself the same problem with We Solve Murders. Yeah,
but your confidence is clearly growing as a writer because straight off the bat, you're intercontinental because you realise that thousands of miles, it doesn't matter. They could be in the other room or they could be on another continent.
Yeah.
And that's where this is why it grabs me because you know what I'm like with novels. I was saying to Graham Norton the other day, his new novel it's got me over. Maybe it's, I don't know. This is different though, isn't it, to the Thursday Murder Club? It's much more, I think it's a bit like White Lotus meets James Bond, which is no bad thing.
Exactly. Well, it's really globe-trotting. I mean, it still has that very British heart and humour and all of that kind of stuff, but I just thought it's funny to put that in a world of private islands and private jets. So I had a lot of fun, being in that world and especially having a guy, Steve, who does not want to be there. All he wants to do is go home. There's a point he turns up in South Carolina, it's blazing sunshine, and someone says, "You've got to put your sunglasses on." He goes, "I don't have sunglasses. I'm not a male model." And it's so lovely to take someone who's like me and put them in this
at least put your
world
hat on. What does he say about? He's got a lovely idiosyncratic line about not having hats either.
Oh, I
don't
can't
hat or something like that. He says it's super super cool. So Rosie, the novelist, the world's best-selling novelist, other than Lee Charles, which is hilarious, or Dan Brown, you could have thrown in there, or whatever, or maybe Richard Osman one day. Is that how you see yourself in 20 years' time?
As Rosie D'Antonio, sitting on a lido shaped as a swan
Because all I'm thinking is which bits of this are Richard, which aren't Richard. I'll tell you, which bits of the wannabe Richard, but he doesn't want to admit that they're him.
No, listen, she lives on a private island. She's got an amazing swimming pool, and she's always,
she doesn't know if she owns a helicopter.
She doesn't know if
but she knows
assumes
she definitely owns a plane.
She's got 80s money. She always says, "No, I'm Steve. I'm the one. I just want to be at home." That's the thing I like most. Tell us about the
80s money. It's a great phrase.
Well, it's that thing of anybody who was in a band in the 70s or 80s, anyone who sold books in the 70s or 80s, they just have enormous amounts of money. Someone says, "Have you got a private plane?" She says, "Of course I've got a private plane. I've got 80s money." And
because it wasn't digital, you had to buy the thing, and if you bought the thing, somebody got the money from you buying the thing.
Exactly. Whenever you see like a massive manor house or something out in the countryside, and you go, "I wonder who lives there," it's always like the bassist from Jethro Tull or something.
Yeah.
You think just someone who was there when people bought physical copies of everything that bands and authors released.
How come Amy is qualified to be a close protection professional?
Well, she grew up in care, which we sort of hint at. I'll go further into that in other books, which is why her and Steve are so close. Steve is a widower. She grew up in care, so they would never ever admit it to each other, but they love each other and they lean on each other. And they say a lot. We'd never talk about grief or trauma, but of course they talk about it all the time, just in different words. And so she just grew up wanting to look after people. She was working in a gym. She was a concierge at a gym, and two beefcake city bros started beating the hell out of each other, and she's the only one who stepped in and managed to disable them both. And Jeff, her boss, who was on one of the other machines, immediately said, "I wonder if you'd like a job at my company." And she's just one of the, she's a super tough kickboxing,
super reliable,
all of that stuff.
Badass.
She's a badass.
How do you know so much about Farnborough Private Airport?
Like anything in my books, I never do any research on anything. I've never been on a private jet. That's one of the things. I kept writing about private jets.
Well, it's honestly first person. I would imagine you have. The whole Farnborough Airport thing is just gloriously lavish.
Really? Do you spend time at Farnborough Airport?
I have been there, yeah.
I knew you would have done.
And I thought he must have been there. Absolutely, because you've described it. You can't have guessed all that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
What did it? Yeah, I just think.
Well,
I wonder what things would be like, and then I write that.
Transatlantic wise, obviously you'd have a co-pilot as well as a pilot.
Oh, sure.
You wouldn't just have one pile up front.
Yeah, okay, that's a mistake. I'll tell the publishers.
But the requesting of sausage rolls instead of sushi, and I'll have a word with the chef on the plane.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Glorious.
Good. I'm glad that it connects with people who've been on. I'm glad you find it relatable.
No, of course I do. I mean, I'm not ashamed of that, though.
No, great.
I love it.
Oh, I would go on a private jet tomorrow if someone offered.
Oh, my gosh.
How can you go on normal planes, though, when you've been on a private jet?
Oh, well, I think you just look at the invoice. That's quite a good deterrent.
That makes
sense.
sense.
There's getting on it, there's paying for it.
Yeah.
Getting on somebody else's.
Oh, that's the dream.
That's the thing. You got to have a mate. You want your mate that has, even a dog. Have the glory of walking the dog, looking like you own the dog, but you just don't own the dog. You don't have to organise for dog care.
Rentable dogs is a big business, I think.
Or borrowable dogs. Borrowable anything, Decent set of golf clubs. If you're standing next to them and you're leaning on them, nobody knows whether you can play golf or not. Yeah. It's all about the scene setting.
It's all exactly. How did we get onto this?
Because of the private jet.
Private jets, there you go.
Great to go on one. Great if you can afford to go on, but far better to sit on somebody else's.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, come on.
You need to get on Stevens.
Stevens PJ, yeah. I bet he's got a few, hasn't he?
Oh, and when he went to his boat, and there's Springsteen and there was Bono.
Yeah.
I mean, their boats will be next to each other. That won't be on the one boat, will it?
I think it might have been on one boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a shame.
I'm not sure. A bit of boat hopping.
You think they've all got their own boats?
Of course they have.
That seems a bit much.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
If you go on holiday together, you go to one boat, don't you? You're not going to go to three boats.
And that'll all be like round Saint-Tropez and all that.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. The world of influence. So real people creep in. Elton John creeps in.
Yes,
it creeps out.
Rosie she's been married to a lot of people. She's got Burt Reynolds stories, Jack Nicholson, Elton. Yeah, she knows them all.
And so when you put somebody in who's real and alive still, do you then have to? Is it got to be a sort of safe space for them from a litigious point of view, or do you know them, or do you not like them and you don't care? I mean, who doesn't like Elton John?
Exactly. No, I don't think I've libelled anybody. I think that Rosie only talks about people that she likes.
And you can stick a real person in a fictitious situation as long. Because it's not defamatory.
Well, I hope so, because I've done it a number of times in this book.
We're about to find out. You also do not shy away from. In fact, you embrace. You jump upon. The influencer world, the modern influencer world, the ChatGPT world is in there as well.
In there.
And is that because you're so at ease now in front of the keyboard that you have this sort of peripheral vision where you can bring it all in, or are you doing that on purpose to make it relevant?
No, I just find it fascinating. The whole thing about the books, and I'm just interested in the world around me, and that's why I write about Greg's and why I write about Twix's, but it's also why I write about influencers and stuff like that, because I'm just interested in new things and how the world is moving on. So I'm like a magpie, I bring everything to the plot. So I just, there's a lovely murder mystery going on, but I want the world as it is today to be, all in there. So if someone reads it in 80 years' time, they'll have a genuine idea of what it was like to be around in 2024.
Yeah, because it's great, isn't it? Because it's great to mention things like that, the zeitgeisty things, the new ingredients in the zeitgeist blitzer that make it current, but they can also date it. And that may be a good thing, or it may be a bad thing.
I was talking to Lee Child the other day, and we did an interview, and he was saying, "No,
can we have a control room? Ooh. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody." Not that Lee Child. No, I was talking to him, and he said in his very first book, the very first Reacher book, he's like, "Okay, I need something really technical and really kind of modern." And he said that he just read about email. And he said, "Great, I'm going to get Richard to send someone an email. That is going to make him look pretty cool." And he says now it's just like so ridiculous. But things go from sci-fi to social history very, very quickly. But I like writing the book that I'm writing this year. I like to write about this year. I like to write about what's going on around me on the day I'm writing. That for me is fun.
A lot of people get killed very quickly.
Yeah.
Get on with the murders, man.
Yeah, listen, exactly. I don't keep people waiting. It's called We Solve Murders. You'd be bored if murder didn't happen.
It's such a punchy title as well. We Solve Murders.
It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah,
it was absolutely a working title at first, and I said to my publisher, "Look, it's at the moment it's called We Solve Murders. Of course, it's not going to be called that." And she went, "Well, why not? Why not? That's a great title." Yeah, I was like, "Okay." We Solve Murders. Listen, that's what it says on the tin.
It's funny, isn't it? Because even the title, Thursday Murder Club, it's warmer, it's more parochial. Yeah. We Solve Murders.
Yeah.
It just gets on with it.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like you can call people up. Hello, We Solve Murders.
Yeah, and exactly that's the name of their company, and the front cover as well, which we tried to get up one of those lovely kind of Len Dayton airport novels of the 80s, you know, the kind of glossy, those big books you'd have that I remember my
It's
mum
almost
having.
70s, to be honest.
Yeah, it's kind of late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
It's
man.
fun.
It's absolutely gorgeous. So do we talk about the connection of the influencers being the victims? Do we talk about the showbiz agent?
Oh yes, she's fun.
Tell us about the showbiz agent.
She is. She's been taken advantage of by a shadowy organisation. That she was like Sue Lawley's agent in the 80s. She's got like 3 clients left. One of whom's a former rugby player who I think he just died. There was another, like an ex-radio DJ who just stuff on GB News. It's she's got a tiny little office in Letchworth Garden City, and suddenly she starts getting all these new clients and all this new money.
She also has a discredited ventriloquist on her books.
Yes, she does.
I mean,
exactly.
come on. I mean, it's like peach perfect.
Yeah, she's fun.
How much fat is trimmed? Because it's not a small book. It's not a thin book. It's plenty of pages, but it's tight, man.
Well, that's what I try. You know, I try and make the chapters short. I try and come from different people's perspectives. If I get, there's one great note you ever get from an editor, which is just occasionally you just see it twice, an entire manuscript. It'll just be brackets bored. That's the only note you ever want, because you're like, great. Then you look, you go, okay, why are you bored? Oh, because that scene was too long, and actually I should move that after that. But yeah, I'm good at getting rid of stuff immediately if it's sort of wanging on a little bit. But it's, you know, with humour and pathos and all that stuff, there's lots of places to go. So hopefully people never get bored.
It's funny though. I mean, the level of comedy writing, it's so funny. The exchanges are so funny. I printed out this thing. Do you want to have a go at this? Should we do this?
Okay, tell me what this is.
So basically, Steve reluctantly gets on the private jet.
Yeah.
He then befriends the steward, and the steward, who's not usually allowed to drink, then has a beer tasting session with Steve on the plane.
Yeah.
He says, do you have a beer? And the steward says, well, we have several beers. Do you have an ale? I'm not quite sure. Why don't we have a tasting? So he brings the beers out, and Steve says, the father-in-law of Amy, the CP professional, who's out there with Rosie and D'Antonio on this weird island somewhere, very close to all these murders with these influencers, says, I'm not allowed to drink on duty. And he says, why not? He says, the pilot might need me in an emergency. And then Steve says, well, why don't you go and ask her? Is it okay if you have a drink? And he won't, so he does. And she says, yeah, it's fine, don't worry, have a drink. And so the steward's more drunk than he's ever been in his whole life via this 12 beer tasting session. So that all goes on, and then Steve lands at the American airport, the American equivalent of Farnborough Airport, which also happens to be the airport where one of the murder victims was last seen landing.
This makes it sound very complicated. I promise it's less complicated when you read it.
I don't think it does. I mean, if I listen, mate,
it's like describing a quiz show,
if I
isn't
can
it?
repeat it, it's not that complicated. So then Steve wants to find out more about the airport surreptitiously. So he tries to befriend the American Customs and Excise.
And this is when you take stuff from life. The one thing we all know is when you go to America,
here we go.
Do not ever joke with the border patrol people. It's the funniest people in the world. You see them if they're in a queue at like O'Hare Airport. They're like, yes sir, I have packed my bags. I said, yes sir, I'm here for business.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you were absolutely stone-faced, and I love those border patrol officers. So I thought, I'm going to want a character. I just see what it'd be like.
And you want them to like you.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I be the one that cracks the mold?
Yeah, and you're like, I'm here for business, but it's really interesting business. I think you might be interested, sir. I'm not interested. And so I wanted to have.
I have never been less interested.
Go behind the visor of one of those characters.
Of course, he has a motive to do that, because the naughtier he is, the more chance he's got of being taken round the back.
Yeah, Steve needs to find something out at the airport, and so he wants to try and rile the security officer, which I do not do in real life.
Right, so Carlos is the security officer.
Yeah.
And Steve is the Brit.
Yeah.
So, and I just thought this would be fun, because I just wanted to get across how funny your exchanges are in the book. So do you want to do Steve and I'll do Carlos?
Okay.
So Carlos is surly. He's no nonsense. He does not want to know, and also he's at a private airport where there's less trouble than trouble ever. Yeah. And also
he doesn't really want to search anybody.
He doesn't want to search anyone. Nobody wants to be searched. And so to sort of get yourself into an iffy situation with the border security officer at a private airport is very difficult to do.
Yeah, exactly.
But Steve has to do it.
He has to do it. Yeah.
Okay, sir, what exactly is your business in the United States? You pack light, sir. How long are you staying?
Not long, hopefully. Not that this isn't a lovely place to be, but there's the quiz on Wednesday, and Margaret's very good with trouble, but he misses me.
Trouble?
Yeah, my cat.
Oh, you're a cat guy. Good. I see you have a Van Halen T-shirt here. You a Halen fan?
Yeah, greatest band of all time.
You got that right, sir.
Call me Steve.
No, sir. Why are you here?
Have you ever heard of a man called Andrew Fairbanks?
Can't say I have 2 T-shirts for the whole trip.
Yeah, should do it, don't you think? You have washing machines over here. Andrew Fairbanks is the guy who died on the yacht. Can I show you a photo of him?
Sir.
Steve.
Sir, you are subject to a search by Customs and Border Protection. I'm within my rights to demand silence from you. But seeing as you love cats and you understand where Van Halen sits in the scheme of things, I've given you a little leeway. But you're in no position to be showing me photos, except the one on your passport. So, you're here to visit your daughter-in-law?
Yeah, Amy, you'd love her.
I'm sure. The 2 you got plans?
If I say investigating a murder, will you send me back to England?
What murder? Andrew Fairbanks?
Are you interested in that?
I'm interested in a lot of things. Orchids.
He used this airport, you know.
Did he now?
On Tuesday, were you here?
Day off. I was at an airship show. I like blimps.
A driver picked up Fairbanks at the airport, but no one knows who. Has anyone been asking?
Not as far as I know. Just you.
It would be fun to look at your CCTV, wouldn't it? See what we can see.
I have another flight landing in 20 minutes, sir.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to write down the name of the greatest ever Van Halen song. You do the same, and if we both choose the same track, you let me take a look at the CCTV, which you are dying to look at anyway.
So then, Steve writes down Unchained and expects Carlos to do the same. Carlos turns around his page to reveal When It's Love.
Come on, man.
I like the gentler stuff. Sorry, Steve. Now, if you don't mind, I've got some more billionaires to pretend to frisk.
There you go.
I mean, come on.
He gets his own way in the end, though, Steve. I'll say that.
But it's just, I mean, that is like screaming to be put on the screen.
Well, it's yeah. I would imagine someone will have a pop at that. But it's, you know, again, it's that thing of, as I say, I just had the idea of having a security guard, and then you start writing them, and then you think, oh, he likes orchids and he likes blimps. You think, oh, I didn't know that about you, and suddenly you think, okay, well, you can come back for another book, and he turns up later on, and he knows Rosie from various ways,
of course
and
he does.
this, that, and the other. So it's that's the joy of writing. It's
Are we
all
witnessing the
characters.
forming of the band?
Yes, I hope so. I mean, that's always the idea. You know, you have the idea in your head, which at the start was just father-in-law, daughter-in-law. I just thought it was an interesting dynamic. And then suddenly people start kind of circling around them, and then they stick to them. And Steve's best mate, Tony Taylor, in The New Forest, is a character I love, who spends his entire life talking about the directions between different places. And you get these people, and you think, oh, you're going to come back, and you're going to come back. And suddenly you've got a series that kind of runs and runs.
Oh, God. So when you plant the Van Halen T-shirt
Yeah.
in Steve's packing in the UK,
Yeah.
is that because the security guard needs to form the relationship with him via Van Halen? Or does that, in your mind, does that unfold somewhere in the air between Farnborough and wherever this airport is?
Yeah, I just wanted him to be a Van Halen fan because I thought that's fun.
So
I thought it puts
funny.
you, and then when Carlos is there, I thought, well, what's he going to have in his case? He's going to have 2 T-shirts and one will be Van Halen. What if Carlos is a Van Halen fan? And then later on, and there's another hitman who tries to do the same trick on Carlos, and it fails because he is not a Van Halen fan.
Oh, God. And also, you do that thing, not only are there short chapters, but there are parts to the book. So we can there are books with, it's like a little trilogy.
Yeah.
So we can have another rest.
Well, you need to know where you are. I always think you need to know where you are. If you're going on a long walk, you need to stop at a pub every now and again, don't you? That's what I
and you
always
can
think.
go off the beaten track, but you need the beaten track to go off.
Yeah, exactly that.
Gosh. So, do you think you're getting better at this or not?
It's a very interesting question. I certainly understand how to write books a bit more easily. I've made mistakes before, which I'm not making again. And this one, it's more expansive. Just, little things, like that stuff of, there being too many subplots, or, just everything has to come from truth. Everything has to come from character. And if you ever try and artificially put something in there because you go, oh, this is a fun scene, this is a lot of fun, it always comes out.
Sticks out like a sore thumb.
It always has to come out. So just letting the story tell itself a bit. And I've tried to.
So if you're flexing as a writer, it sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, of course it does. The key as a writer is absolutely get out the way of your characters. So you should never hear your own voice at any point. If you're laughing because of something the character said rather than something the author has said. And if you're shocked because it's something someone did rather than something the author wrote. That's the way I always think about it. Absolutely get yourself out of the way of the book.
And if you as you zoom out to write this one,
Yeah.
right, and it lets the Thursday Murder Club gang breathe,
Yeah.
you go go back to revisit them, and have they grown in your absence?
Well, they are. I've literally just started the Fifth Thursday Murder Club now, which will be out next year. And they're just like such old friends of mine, and I'm just joining them again at the start of this next one. And I'm the same as anyone. I'm thinking, I wonder what you've been up to. And so they're in the process of telling me what they've been up to now. And we start with a wedding on the fifth book, and there's a lot of fun, I think, in that fifth book. But it's lovely coming back to them, and it's lovely knowing that somewhere down the road, Steve and Amy are an hour and a half away in the New Forest. That everyone exists in the same world.
Is it hard?
It's the hardest thing I've ever done, writing a book.
Still
it's
hard.
So difficult.
Because this
bit's
reads
easy.
like it's like you're having the most fun in the world writing this
I
book.
know. Well, that's the idea. That's what you need to do. Honestly, of anything I've ever done, it's incredibly difficult. But it's the thing I'm proudest of, though. So,
how many books would it take you to sell to buy Fulham Football Club? And if you had the cash, would you? Or is it easy to go to somebody else's football club?
It is easier to go to someone else's football club. You wouldn't want to buy Fulham because everyone would hate you within sort of 20 minutes, wouldn't they? It's just whatever you did.
I don't know. We're quite tolerant as a group of fans.
You know for a fact the second that if I bought Fulham, which by the way I'm not going to do because we're literally owned by an auto
Be
parts
good for our
billionaire.
social for our hits if you just said you were.
Oh yeah, I might do.
Yeah, you might do what?
I think I might. I think me and Vassos might go in together and buy Fulham. Yeah. And
That's enough. That's all we need. That 7 seconds.
Nice.
Vassos, me, and Lily Allen.
By the way, the podcast is you're smashing the podcast, aren't you?
That's fun. The podcast, yeah. The rest is entertainment. That's just sitting around and chatting, and so I'm very happy to do that.
How many hits did you get for your Oasis exchange?
Oh, like a lot.
Gazillions.
Yeah, that went
That's
absolutely
good, actually.
crazy.
I thought it was an interesting take on things.
It is. It's because that's what they really want. They just want to be back up in the bright lights again, don't they?
Yeah.
You miss the limelight sometimes.
You want to be relevant again.
Yeah, exactly.
Back in the conversation.
Yeah, like Gallagher needs money.
Yeah.
Come on.
Richard, well done, mate. Thank you so
Thank
much. You don't need my well done, but well done anyway.
Thank you.
This is great. Richard Osman, best-selling author of Thursday Murder Club, with a brand new gang, We Solve Murders, a brand new series. I think if it would fit on an estate agent's board, then it's a great title. And I can sort of see it.
Yeah, We Solve Murders. Yeah, you wouldn't buy the house though, would you? If it just said We Solve Murders outside.
Right, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Richard Osman. Bang. We Solve Murders, brand new series. We Solve Murders out when today.
Virgin Radio.